In this lecture, we're going to explore clause 7.2 of ISO 27001, a clause that is about ensuring the people in your organization are competent, meaning they have the right knowledge, skills, and experience to protect your information assets effectively. Alright, this clause is part of clause 7, which is named the support clauses. And as you can tell, there is a piece of mandatory documented information attached to this clause. So for this one, we have to actually document something. Okay, now let's talk about the requirement first. So the requirement here is pretty simple. It's about the organization determines the competence of persons needed for information security performance and ensures that they are competent. So we are talking about information security, so obviously the people that are doing work under the ISMS have to have a few skills, have to have a bit of knowledge about it, and the organization has to ensure that they are actually competent so that they meet these competence requirements. Now, when looking at the project plan, then you can see that there is not a clear step that is directly related to 7.2. It's always a mix between 7.2, 7.3, which is about awareness, which we're going to cover next, and Control 8.6.3, which is also about security awareness, training, and education. So please don't get too tangled up. In the end, it's about following the steps and not so much about distinguishing between which part belongs to which clause. Alright, now first of all, what is competence? Competence is defined as the ability to apply knowledge and skills to achieve intended results. Now here's a simple analogy that most of us can relate to. Cooking. Imagine you read a recipe for lasagna. You understand the ingredients and the steps. That's knowledge. But competence is being able to actually make the lasagna. So knowing when the sauce is ready, adjusting seasoning by taste, not burning the top, serving it on time for dinner guests, and so on. So that's competence. It's about applying what you know to achieve the intended result. Now, what about what we have to do now? So it's pretty basic. The first step is to determine what competence is needed. This means defining the knowledge, skills, and experience required for each role that affects your ISMS. So this isn't just about the technical roles. This might include your HR department, your legal procurement department, so pretty much anyone whose actions impact information security. So you should ask yourself, what do they need to know? What should they be able to do? What level of judgment or insight is required? And this can be documented in job descriptions or role profiles. So you can think of it like setting the target that you want each role to hit. Now in the next step, we assign the roles to people who meet those competence requirements. Now we pretty much have three options here. The first option is to assign the role to people or to staff who already have the competence. Or we train people to obtain the competence needed. And finally, we could also, of course, bring in new people who already have the competence, but are currently not working for our organization. So either we have people in the organization that have the skills and knowledge, or we train them to acquire and obtain skills and knowledge, or we bring in new people. So that's pretty much the only way how we can assign roles given the competence requirements. Now, assigning someone to such a role isn't, of course, the end of the story. We also need to evaluate whether the actions we've taken are effective. So in case of obtaining skills and knowledge, did the training work? Is the person now able to perform the role at the required level? Typical examples of evaluations include assessments or certifications, performance reviews, feedback from peers or managers, or simply observing their behavior in real-world situations. Now, this step can help you to know or to better understand if you've actually achieved the level of competence that you aimed for in step 1. Now, next up, we verify that the person is truly competent for the role. And this is also where we, document the evidence. So examples of documented evidence might include job descriptions with mapped competencies, training certificates, performance evaluations, skill assessments, and so on and so on. We'll have a brief look at some examples right after this. Alright, finally, competence must evolve. Technology changes, threats change, your business changes. That means people must continue to learn and grow. So we have to make ongoing development part of our ISMS through, for example, annual training refreshers, through new hire onboarding for ISMS roles, by outlining career development paths that are aligned with our security objectives, and just providing some sort of incentives for our team, for our staff to keep learning, to keep growing, and to keep evolving together with our organization. And hopefully, this ongoing process will turn your team into a long-term strength for your ISMS and not a weak point, as human beings are often considered in information security. All right, now let's talk about how to demonstrate compliance with this clause. So let's start with job descriptions. Job descriptions should clearly outline what each role is responsible for and what skills or qualifications are required. So this is pretty much your baseline, so what the organization expects from someone in that position. And that's usually a great piece of evidence, as it shows what is the requirement, and then you can compare, let's say, the staff and their skills and their knowledge with what the organization intends them to possess. Next up, training records. Training records log all relevant learning activities, from internal sessions, external courses, workshops, or even awareness programs. So it's important not to track not just participation, but also the outcomes or improvements that can be seen after training. Then we have performance reviews. These go typically beyond theory. They show whether someone is actually applying their skills on the job. For example, a review might assess how effectively a person manages incidents or follows procedures. Now, tests, or whatever you might want to call them, so maybe after people have taken or participated in a training session, they might be subjected to a written, practical, or scenario-based test. And these test results might help you verify if someone has absorbed and can apply the specific knowledge or procedures that you have been trying to teach them. All right, and last but not least, we have certificates. These include formal qualifications such as the ISO 27000 Lead Implementer certification, which you are aiming for, or the CISSP, CISM, or just you name it. There's a bunch of certifications out there, but this could also include university degrees or vendor-specific certifications. Certifications are an excellent way to show that someone has acquired the necessary knowledge, and it's a great piece of evidence, as it is, I would say, universally accepted, and you can be pretty sure that once you have obtained, let's say, a reputable, a renowned certification, that there is at least some skills and some knowledge present, which is, I guess, the whole idea. And that's it for clause 7.2.